Hello, everyone. So now I will, I think the stream started. So now I will put the link to Telegram. Yeah, long time no see, right? So, okay, the link is in the Telegram. Now I will add this to live chat too. Okay, you see the light is really strange. And the reason for that is we have now daylight saving. And I don't know why it's called daylight saving, because right now, if you see, it's like super dark. So I don't know what kind of light they save by moving the clock, but definitely not the daylight. Or it's getting brighter. It's getting like there is some light in the morning, but yeah, that's a mystery to me why they keep doing this. Feels very archaic to me. Okay, so I think I need to do one more thing. So I'll open Slido with all your questions. And I also saw that there is quite some confusion around the project, like how to submit, like what happens after you submit. So let me go through that too. So I'll just share my screen right now. Also, I will open the stream on my phone. Okay, so I have it on my phone. So again, hi everyone who just joined. I will keep monitoring live chat. And let me just share my screen. Okay, where is the button? Okay, share screen. So now you should see YouTube. And yeah, let's start. So I will start by going to our course page, ML Zoomcamp. Is it actually loading? Yeah, it's loading. So I hope by now all of you know where to find information about the current cohort. Judging by the question, not everyone, but some people joined recently. So I want to show it one more time. So you go to this mlzoomcamp.com website, and then there is 2022 cohort. So this is the link you're interested in. And then in this link, so all the information about the project or projects, plural, is in this projects. So, or you can scroll down to midterm project and yeah, click here. So it's in the projects .md file. And you see all the information here about the projects of this iteration. And so there is a due date, the link where you need to submit your project, and other things. So let me start by clicking on this link. So more information about the project and evaluation criteria. So this is the, like when you go to mlzoomcamp.com, you will find this link here in the projects folder. And it explains you in more details what the project should contain. Like basically just go through this document. It tells you everything about the way you should do your project and about the way it will be evaluated later. So just go through this, and if you have any questions, ask in Slack. And then, so the way you work on the project, you create a project in your repo. You work on this project, you make sure you include all the deliverables that are mentioned here. So then you have this, you have your GitHub link, and then you go to this link, to this form that you find here. You click on this link and you fill in this form. So email, your solution, commit ID, learning in public links. So you see that it's actually capped at 14 points, not 7 like usual, because the project is meant to take 2 weeks. And then if you share your progress every day, then you will have 14 posts to share. Okay, and then, yeah, if you encountered any issues with the project, you can submit in frequently asked questions document. And that's pretty much it. So you do this, you submit your project. And then what will happen next is every one of you, everyone who submitted a project will get 3 projects to review, 3 projects of other students. The table will look like that. So now I will go to the previous cohort. So I'll go to 2021 cohort. So let me take a capstone project. So it will, where is it? Yeah, so find, it will be more obvious. So it will be evaluation assignments. I will put the link here. So we'll have a link. And inside the link, we will have a table like that. So reviewer hash, it will be your hash. So you take your email and you apply the same function, the same hash function you use in the leaderboard. So let me just show you this one more time. So when where are some questions about that, I can just refer to that video. So leaderboard, and then in the leaderboard, you have this thing, this function. So this is the function you use to find your position on the leaderboard, and this is the same function you use to find projects that are assigned to you. So this is you, and these are the projects you need to evaluate: project hash and project URL. And then let's see. We'll open this project. So you open this project and you go through this project and you use the criteria from here. No. Let me go back to projects again. So there is a list of criteria. So this is these are evaluation criteria. So you just click on this. Maybe we even have a link here. Do we not? Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of lost with all these tabs that I have. Yeah, we don't have the criteria. So for the criteria, go to the projects folder in the root folder of the course, and we have this criteria link. I probably should include the link to closer to here. Well, yeah, I'll do that. But yeah, this is the document with the criteria, and you go through this criteria and you check. Okay, this project does it have a good README? This is, I think this is the first one, right? Problem description. Is the problem well described? You see, okay, the problem is very well described, so you give 2 points. And you go through this list of criteria, and then for each of the criteria, you evaluate the project, and then there is a form where you put, like for each of the criteria, there is a question, and then you put your evaluation results. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, so I'll make sure that the link is not lost. So I'll add it here. Oops. Yeah. But that's roughly the process, right? And now let me just go to Slido. And I think there are some projects, some questions related to the projects. Maybe I'll quickly find this. Yeah, so this one, I wanted to start with this one. Is there a passing point, like how many points you need to get in order to pass a project? Yes, indeed, there is. You need to get, I think, something like 50% in order to pass the project. I don't remember the exact score we used last year, but it will be, we will look at the distribution probably, or this is how we did last year. So we'll look at the distribution of the scores. And we saw, like we didn't want to pass all to mark all the projects, many projects as failed. So we looked at the distribution and we made sure that most of you passed the project. And I think the passing score was pretty low. So most of the students who did the project, who did put some effort there in doing the project, and who met at least half of the criteria or most of the criteria, but partly they passed the project. So it wasn't a big problem. So don't worry about that too much. So as long as you put some effort, then you'll pass it. And people who didn't pass last year, they submitted empty projects or projects that were copied from somewhere, or I don't know, projects that were just started. So maybe they added README, or maybe they copied some Kaggle kernel, and that was it. So nothing was done in addition to that. So there were people who passed, but they just didn't put any effort in attempting in doing the project. So if you put some effort, genuine effort, don't worry, you will pass the project. Okay, so now let me just go through the questions. Could I pass the project if I built the modeling part but not deploying? Okay, well, let's take a look at the criteria. So model training, reproducibility, model deployment, dependency. So you see that 4 out of 9 of the criteria are about deployment, right? And this one, reproducibility, is kind of also about that partly. Exporting notebook to a script. I mean, there is not so. Most of them are about actually productionizing your model, right? Not about the modeling. If you do that, so you will get 2 points, 4 points, then 7. Yeah, 7 points. I don't think that will be sufficient to pass the course, to pass the project. So you will also need to work on this too. But yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? So if you just create a Docker file, if you use BentML, then you automatically have, like, I don't know, some points here and there, right? It's just put some effort there and you'll pass it, don't worry. But yeah, if you just submit a Jupyter notebook and that's it, I don't think it will work. Yeah, so you need to do a little bit more than that. Okay. And I want to add that this is a machine learning engineering course. So this is not a course about data science. This is a course about engineering. So if you want to be an engineer, and at the end we will give you a certificate showing that you learned the engineering part, you have to learn the deployment part, right? So that there is no way around that. So if you want to get a certificate at the end, you have to do that too. What would be the main skills, algorithms, tools that I need to demonstrate in my portfolio to get a computer vision job? Some key factors to highlight. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know what are the typical requirements for computer vision jobs, and that they can vary from one company to another. So I would give you a general advice, a general piece of advice that I would give in any other case. So you need to look to do some research in what company is doing and understand what are the problems, what are the kind of problems they solve, and then try to solve a similar problem. So for example, if it's a company like where I work, online classifieds, you can go to Kaggle and you can see what kind of computer vision problems companies in online classifieds domain were putting out there. Or just go through the tech blog and you will see what kind of articles are there that this company is publishing, and then try to build a project around that. So for example, like let's take Tech OLX. So OLX, this is the company where I work, and you can find an article here, triplet. Yeah. So for example, this fighting fraud with triplet loss, right? So this is in this article, we show how we use computer vision to find duplicates, how to find image duplicates. And then this article describes. So if you do something similar in your project, then you can just show this to add to your CV and then talk about this during your interview. And then that's much better than just a random project. So it will certainly help to pick attention. So I guess, yeah, that's the most important factor. Just try to do some research, find what kind of problems the company is interested in solving, and then solve these problems, and then use it to build your portfolio. Okay, how can I save and load a BentML model with features? So I think you're referring to this problem we had that is in the frequently asked questions, right? So the problem that we had there was, let me find it. This one, right? So value error, training data did not have the following fields. So I don't know how to solve this problem. I talked to Tim. Tim will talk to the BentML team, and this is they will figure this out. So maybe this is a bug, and there will be an issue on GitHub, and you can watch this issue and see when it will be solved. Or maybe there is like an easy fix. You just need to specify the feature name somewhere. So I don't know yet, but I asked Tim to help me to find the answer, and then once we have the answer, we will share the answer with you. A question from Alain. So dataset. So you have a dataset with two numerically independent targets. And your question is, do you process this as two different datasets? Or yeah, so for your project, what you can do is you can just select one of them. So you don't have to do two. But then another option would be to train two models. Right, so you have one model, let's say one XGBoost model for predicting target 1, and then you use the same features for predicting target 2, and then you have two models, right? So this is a perfectly valid approach. Then another approach would be to use a deep learning model or a neural network. So with a neural network, the output that you have, the output could be two numbers, right? So then your model will output two numbers, two targets. So that's, I guess, what you referred by a tuple. We actually, by the way, we don't cover a use case like that in the course. So we don't show how to create a model with two predictions. But if you do some research, you'll find, like with Keras, it's actually relatively easy to do that. You can just Google or use your favorite search engine to find this. I think both of these options are good. Like it depends. It really depends. I don't know what's the best way. So the upside for having a neural network is you have just one model. But the downside is like how, let's say you want to improve the accuracy of predicting one value but not the other. Well, and how do you do this without affecting the other prediction? So sometimes you might want to have this separation, and then you want to have independent models. But yeah, I would actually go with two models. I have a small data set with 160 items. Any recommendation on train test split? Cross-validation helps, right? Yeah, like you definitely need to use cross-validation here. 3 models overfit. Yeah, 3 models overfit. That's why you need to use cross-validation to make sure that this doesn't happen. And usually when you have such a small data set, it helps to use very simple models. So trees, when you let them grow like indefinitely deep, they do tend to overfit. So maybe you have only, you restrict the depth of the tree, or you use something like linear regression with, or logistic regression with very few features. Because you have a small data set, you need to be very careful. Right? So that's, yeah, that's, I guess, the general rule. So use simpler models and then use cross-validation. If we have a web deployment, for example, AWS Lambda, do we still have to create a Docker container? Or is that a specific task we have to show we can do? Yeah, so you saw that Docker is one of the criteria. So if you don't create a Docker file, you will not have a score for that criteria. So let's say if you deploy to Python Anywhere, I think for Python Anywhere, you don't need to create a Docker file. Maybe you do, I don't remember. But there are environments where you don't need to create a Docker container. You can still do that. You'll just not get points for the containerization part. Yeah, I think it's quite important to know how to Dockerize your image. Even for your specific project, you don't need that. I want to make sure you also know how to do this. That's why it's a part of the evaluation criteria. And knowing Docker is quite important, I think, in today's world. So if you want to work as a data scientist or ML engineer or any kind of engineer, you have to know about containerization. No, yeah, so that's why. And also for Lambda, there are different options. Yes, you don't necessarily need Docker, but you can also do it with Docker, right? So there is an option that you, instead of you serve a container through Lambda, it's possible. So, and if you want to use AWS Lambda, I would actually suggest to follow this approach. Do we have to post about the project publicly like we do for 7 Points Weekly? You don't have to. You can if you want. This is optional, remember. This is something we talked about already. So this is all optional. If you want to share your progress publicly, you can do this. And if you saw the, like in the introduction, not the introduction at the beginning when I was talking about the project, I was going through the form. Maybe this form is still open. Yes, you remember that we have this thing, learning in public links. And you see that it's capped at 14 points, right? So every day you share your progress, and then at the end you have 14 links. And by the way, I noticed that some people try to be smart and try to game the system by submitting non-relevant links. And please don't do that. Like, I understand the desire to get extra point, but remember that this is actually anonymized. So nobody knows yet that this hash is you. That's one thing. And then second is like, okay, well, but why do you want to cheat? Like, it's not clear to me. So that person who I saw that they didn't cheat, but they tried to play this, to game the script that we have for evaluating. So that person will lose all the learning in public links. So they will not have any learning in public at all. So I removed, so like instead of 7 points for each of the previous homeworks, they will get 0, and they will receive 0 points for the rest of the course. So please don't do that. I don't see a point. I didn't think somebody would even try to do that. But yeah, life is full of surprises, right? So please don't do that. Like, and there is no point in doing this. Like, why do you want to do this? I don't understand. Yeah, but you've been warned. I chose to work with a fraudulent transaction dataset, and I see there is a lot of similar projects online. I'm wondering if this will affect my project. No, it should not. Just yeah, just keep on working on this project. It should not affect. Like, of course, if you decide to copy the project that somebody did, then it will, of course, affect. So if somebody, people who evaluate your project will accidentally find this out, you will receive 0 scores. And you will have to rely on the other 2 projects to pass the course. So you will not be disqualified for the course, but for the project you will. So don't do that. Apart from that, I don't see any problems. Right? As long as it's not a Titanic, it's not a like, I don't know, Iris dataset. It's not like all this popular dataset. No, that's fine. Why shuffle false in validation generation dataset but not in training for deep learning? Yeah, I don't remember, to be honest. So you're going a bit ahead. So I think. So let me try to remember. So I'll keep this question without the answer. I hope you don't mind. Okay, so how do I? Okay. If I have a feature column with yes and no, should I convert it to 1 and 0 integer or online? Oh, one hot encoding takes care of that. Yeah, I think for binary features, just 1 and 0 makes more sense than one hot encoding. One hot encoding will take care of that, but you will have two columns that are the exact opposite of each other. So that is a bit redundant. And yeah, I think it's better just to convert it to a Boolean column with ones and zeros. I used a couple of code snippets from online. That's okay, right? That is definitely okay. So as a data scientist, I often Google. I end up on Stack Overflow and I see a code snippet, I copy it and use it in my work. So I see nothing wrong if you do the same. So that's a usual thing, right? But if you copy the entire project, that's a different situation, right? Sorry if this has already been asked but got here late. Is it okay to use own Git repo and not the auto-created one? Yes, definitely okay. We actually had a problem with the script that assigns auto-generated ones. That's why that part was removed from the course instructions, and now you should create your own repo and use that for submitting the work. So yeah, sorry for the confusion. And that happened before my vacation. So I thought, okay, let's not spend time. I don't want to spend time in debugging and figuring out what's wrong with the script. Let's just stick to the same approach as we used previously. Everyone creates a project in their own repo. And yeah, there are some downsides to that, but yeah, I wasn't in the mood of going through debugging. So yeah, please, it's okay. Please do that. So I chose a dataset problem above my skill level at this moment. The model is not giving good results. Will a bad model score affect my project's evaluation? That was already asked in Slack. I saw it. So if you look at the criteria, where are the criteria? So you see that model performance is not one of the criteria, right? So if your model does not give you great performance, it will not affect the score you will get at the end. And this is intentional. So the reason it's like that is because it's very hard to control this. So the performance on a data set of a model is very data set specific. So for some data sets, it's just this is how it is, right? So in some cases, for example, for click prediction, if you want to predict if somebody will click on an ad or not, usually the performance of a model is bad. Right? So you cannot predict with very high probability if a person will click on an ad or not, right? But it doesn't mean that these models aren't useful, right? But the performance that you will observe on the validation data set will be bad, and that's okay. This is just a characteristic, a feature of this particular data set of this particular problem, right? So that's why it's not a criteria, but you do need to try to train multiple models, as you see here, and then try tune their parameters. So at the end, maybe you will not have a great model, you will not great performance, you will not have a great performance of this model, but at least you try, and this is what we evaluate here. So we don't evaluate the performance, but whether you tune parameters. Okay, where is it? Another question from David. Is the attempt more important than the accuracy recall of the model? The dataset I'm using is proving difficult to get a good recall value. Yeah, I think this is what I just said. So yeah, it is more important. And then some datasets are just inherently difficult to deal with, like click prediction, fraud prediction, like this kind of data is usually you cannot have a very good score. And if you have a very good score there, then something is probably wrong. Maybe you are overfitting or you have some sort of leakage or whatever. Like, yeah, if I see a model for click-rate prediction that is super accurate, then I will, it will be very suspicious. Okay, this last one. I don't remember, but let me quickly check it. So I think we have a notebook here. Deep learning. Yeah, so this one we use shuffle false. And for train, yeah, shuffle, the default one, is true. Yeah, I think actually, like if you think about this, so when you go over a data set once to evaluate it, it probably shouldn't matter in which order you go over it. So that's what shuffling is controlling. So when you go over a data set, you want to shuffle it, so then the order is random. But yeah, I think the less randomization you have in the validation data set, the better. So I think that's the reason I put shuffle to false here. Yeah, you can experiment with this, set it to true and to false, and then see if the scores you get are the same, once or no. But I think for validation, it's important that we try to stay away from randomization. So just in case that I don't know what can go wrong here, but maybe something can go wrong, right? So you'd rather be careful. That's I think the reason. Okay, I see that there are some comments in the live chat. One comment is, yeah, maybe better to ask it through Slido, then others can also see that, but let me read the first question. So when working with time series data for a regression problem, is it incorrect to shuffle when doing the train validation test split? Yes, for a time series problem, you should never shuffle. So for time series problem, you should do a time-based split. So let's say you take, if you have data for 1 year, you take, let's say, first 9 months for training, then the second, then 2 months for validation and 1 month for test, or something like that. And so you need to do a time-based split here. And shuffling is wrong, yes. So because if you shuffle, what can happen is you accidentally can kind of see in the future. So in your training data set, you might have a data point from December, but yeah, your model will kind of see in the future, which is not, it's not supposed to do this. Okay. Yeah, then Vlad, I think, already answered that. And if we are going to be late on the midterm project, is there any extension or second submission date? So because we were a bit delayed with the Bento ML module, we will also give a few days of extension for the project too. But if you also cannot submit your project by that time, don't worry, we will have 2 more projects. So we'll have a capstone project and capstone project 2. And then if you didn't finish or you failed this project, the midterm project, you get to resubmit this 1 more time. And then you do your capstone project as capstone project 2. So then to pass the course, to get the certificate, you need to pass 2 projects out of 3. So then you kind of have this option to try it 1 more time. And let me also open the deadline calendar. Where it is? Oh, yeah, I have so many tabs. So I'll go here, deadline calendar. So we, if we extend it by a couple of days, so 7th of November is pretty soon. So let's say we extend it by Thursday. We will probably also extend evaluation a little bit, but we will not extend, yeah, we will probably need to extend this a little bit. So yeah, let me think about that. So it's not a problem to extend it. I just need to see how exactly it it affects the overall plan. So yeah, you'll have at least a couple of days to wrap it up. And if you haven't started to deploy your model, do it now. So stop everything you do and take care of model deployments. Don't do it on the last day. So this is an important part, and I know from my experience talking to students last year, many of the students were kind of procrastinating on that. So they were leaving it to the last day, and then on the last day, many things didn't work out because so these things take a bit of time. So you need to be ready that you will have some surprises, that not everything will work from the first attempt. So better to drop everything you work on now, take the model, whatever best model you have so far, and do the rest of the these criteria. Where do we have them? But yeah, you get my point. So start working on deploying your model now. Okay, I think that's all for today. Yeah, so I hope you're having fun with your projects. And yeah, don't worry if you are a bit late with the project, you don't get to submit, you will have a second chance. And yeah, so if you have any questions, reach out in Slack and we will be happy to help you. Okay, have a nice weekend and yeah, enjoy finishing your project.